Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1523B and today's date is March 16th, 2018 and the title of the episode is The Plan is in Motion. Trust it. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as every day passes, we are finding out more and more information. And as we can see, the walls are definitely closing in on the deep state. What we found out is that there are new texts from Peter Strozk that reveal he had a relationship with the recused judge in the Flynn case. And basically this was deliberately hidden from Congress. And what we're seeing right now is now we understand why he recused himself from the Michael Flynn case. Now, this is unbelievable because, again, it was completely covered up and no one really knew about it. Now, Contreras, who is the judge, was appointed by President Obama on May 19, 2016. He sat on the Pfizer court while the Trump team was under surveillance by the Obama administration. Strozk was one of the two FBI investigators who took part in the January 24th interview of Michael Flynn, Trump's brand new national security director. Flynn later pleaded guilty to a charge of providing false information to the FBI, which was supposed to be heard by Judge Contreras on December 1st, 2017. Now, Strozk, who went to work for Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russia meddling in the 2016 election, was subsequently removed from the probe by Mueller after the Department of Justice internal watchdog, Inspector General Michael Horowitz, discovered over 50,000 text messages between Strozk and Page, which revealed anti-Trump, pro-Clinton bias, as well as an illicit affair the two were having. Now, the pair worked at the highest levels on both the Clinton email investigation and the early Trump-Russia investigation until their removal from the Mueller probe. On December 5th, 2017, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley wrote a letter to the FBI Director, Christopher Wray, demanding the delivery of text messages from Strozk, along with the notes from the Flynn interview. 2 days later, Judge Contreras was recused from the Flynn case with no explanation whatsoever, and it was reassigned to Judge Emmett G. Sullivan. Now, according to the newly seen text messages, Strozk and Page discussed setting up a cocktail or dinner party with Contreras so they could speak without arousing suspicion of collusion. Strozk expressed concern that a one-on-one meeting between the two men might require Contreras' recusal from matters in which Strozk was involved. What we're seeing right now is the real collusion, and all of this was hidden. Now, we know that the dossier that was leaked to the press was out there. Christopher Steele, the Clintons, they were all involved. Clintons paid for it. And we see at this point, someone had to leak this to the corporate media. Well, it seems like we might have found out who actually did the leaking. And it looks like the leaker was James Clapper. He was the former director of National Intelligence. He was the individual who leaked the dossier to CNN. So we can see right now, this was a coordinated effort, which we all kind of knew, but the proof is coming out right now. And again, these are facts. These are documented facts. It's not propaganda where people just screaming and yelling and just telling you whatever you want to hear. They are gathering the facts to present all of this. Now, we're going to receive a Inspector General report, which they're saying is pure TNT. And the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz is going to provide these reports, and they're saying it's going to include evidence of outgoing Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe ordering agents to alter the 302 forms, the paperwork in agent files after interviewing someone. Horowitz is also reportedly homing in on McCabe's handling of the Anthony Weiner laptop after reports emerged that he wanted to avoid taking action on the FBI's findings until after the 2016 election. And I do believe that in this report there's going to be a lot more. And remember, the deep state is nervous about this because these are facts that are going to be coming out. And yes, they can play it off, they can use propaganda, but when the evidence is presented, just like the FISA memo where Schiff tried to play this off and he put his own version out there, then he had to send it back because he put a lot of classified stuff in there, and they try to say, oh, look what they're doing, they won't let me release it, and it turns out everything that he tried to do fell apart. The House Intelligence Committee decided that after 14 months, there was no Russian collusion. This Mueller investigation is going to fall apart very, very quickly. And we're going to see a lot of individuals start to resign or maybe not run for election. And this is going to begin very soon because once they see the writing on the wall, many of these individuals who are corrupt, who've been doing things they shouldn't have been doing, they're going to say, you know what, I don't want to run anymore. And this is not just going to happen in the Democrat Party. It's going to happen in the Republican Party. We're going to see a lot of these individuals, they're going to run. And this I can see happening very, very quickly right now. Now we see the UK, the deep state, they're still pushing the idea that Russia is involved with the poisoning of Skripal and his daughter. They are not dead, they are still alive, and they're unconscious right now. But if they do become conscious, I wonder what they're going to say. Now, will they allow this to happen? Will they allow them to gain consciousness so they can speak and talk and tell you what happened? Or is something else going to happen? Now, the UK, and we've said this before, they are refusing to share the information with Russia. And Russia is saying this is a blatant violation of the Chemical Weapons Convention, which states that the country suspected of being the place of origin of a toxic agent is to be contacted first. Now, according to the Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, Britain also failed to inform Russia of Glushkov's death in London earlier this week, despite being obliged to do so. And Russia has decided they're going to be opening up their own investigation, and they're going to be filing requests for information to the UK agencies, as well as conduct interrogations, searches, and other investigative activities, and they'll be asking for documentation. What is the UK going to do at this point? Because they really don't have any evidence. Now, I know that May is out there, Theresa May. She's claiming that only Russia could have obtained this type of poison. But we know that this is known to many of the countries. They have the formula. Actually, if you go onto the internet, there was a book that was written, and it contains the formula of how to create this poison. Now, of course, you have to collect the chemicals to create it, but it has it in there. And actually, the book costs $8.16. And this book was published in 2008. So it's not like Russia, which actually is the Soviet Union who created this, which was actually destroyed, and the chemicals organization verified that it was destroyed. This formula is out there. Anyone could produce it if they have the chemicals. Now, most of the state actors, they have these chemicals. But what we can see happening right now is they're doing whatever they possibly can to get Russia off the UNSC. Because once they're off the UNSC, then they can't veto the plans of the deep state. And I think this is their move right now. And if that doesn't work, they're going to try to push maybe a false flag. I mean, we already have Nikki Haley out there telling us that Russia might use chemical weapons in New York. Now, we know New York had many different drills with chemical weapons within the subway system, and she might be hinting that this is where they might have to go if they can't get them off the UNSC. But we can see this whole entire propaganda stunt is going to break down, and it's not going to work. The U.S. right now is saying that Iran is trying to meddle in Iraq's elections. Now, why would they be saying this? It's amazing how the United States, the deep state, comes out and says all these other countries are meddling in the elections. When we really look at what happened here, the deep state had regime change in all these countries which meddled in their elections. They made sure they had the person they wanted in power. And they're very afraid that their puppet governments will be voted out and a government for the people will be voted in and maybe even be friendly to Iran. This is what they're very nervous and afraid about. This is why they're saying Venezuela, the elections down there, they're not going to recognize them. Doesn't matter if they recognize them or not. But we can see that things are rapidly deteriorating for the deep state. And we see at this point that this whole thing is part of a plan. The plan has been put into motion since Trump has been put into office. It's hard to believe. People always question it. People say that he's part of the deep state. But you can see, and we've been talking about this for a very long time, when we said there were background talks happening in North Korea for peace when everyone else was out there saying that we're going to war. We see that's not happening. We see the same thing happening in Afghanistan. We see the same thing happening in Syria. Actually, the troops will be leaving. The U.S. military has significantly reduced its operations in Turkey's Incirilik airbase. Now, they're removing equipment, they're removing soldiers, they're removing certain items from the Incirilik airbase. Now, they use this airbase to go to fly the jets into Syria, to supply the troops in Syria, to supply the paid mercenaries in Syria. Now they're cutting back there, which tells us something. It tells us that the mission that we were once on, the agenda that we were once on, well, we're not on it anymore. As we can see, the Islamic State is beaten. Al-Nusra is beaten. The United States, they're stuck. There's no reason for them to be in Syria. And we can see already out in the Kurdish territories, they're already looking at their government to control and to help their region. They don't want the deep state there anymore. They don't need their help. All funding has been stopped to the Kurdish region. All funding and supplies have been stopped to the moderate rebels. It is not happening anymore. And we can see right now that the U.S., as they continually remove their military assets from the Incirlik Air Base, there is no reason for the U.S. to be in Syria. There's nothing to gain there anymore. Actually, there's more risk of losing a lot in Syria than actually gaining anything in Syria. Because the world now is looking. And we can see with Trump, with Russia, with China, there's no reason to push this agenda anymore in Syria. The deep state is finished right now. They have lost their edge in the Middle East. And as the U.S. removes the military assets from Incirlik, the next phase will be the military assets, the troops from Syria. Most likely, this is going to happen in the next couple of months, where we're going to see troops being moved out of this region. In Iraq, they already want a timetable of when the U.S. forces are going to leave. Now, what's very interesting about all this is countries are asking the U.S. to leave their land. And the deep state is trying to stay there. Well, when a country, a sovereign country with elected leaders, ask another country to leave their area, they need to leave. I mean, think about it. If we asked a country that was in our country to leave, and they didn't, how would we consider that? What would we say? Well, you're not leaving. Why? Why are all your troops here? Why are your tanks here? Why'd you set up bases here? We would think it's an act of war. Well, this is what these countries are going to look at after a while. They're going to say, well, is this an act of war? You're not leaving. And I think what's going to happen right now is there's going to be a lot of pressure where these countries are going to continually say, leave, 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 leave. Russia's going to say leave. Syria's going to say leave. And Trump is going to make the announcement that there is no reason for the United States to be in these countries. But of course, he's waiting for the right moment. And I think this is going to be coming in the next couple of months, because we can see the preparations to leave are already happening. They're moving military assets out of Incirilik, and I think the next phase is going to be out of the Middle East. And most likely this is what he's been talking about with this parade on November 11th. Now, we can see right now there is a plan in motion. Dismantle the globalist system, the central bank system, bring down the entire system and reset it, bring home the troops, get those individuals that are corrupt, that have caused all of this, who have committed crimes, treason, lock them up. And this is all in process. This is what is happening. This is what we're seeing right in front of our eyes right now. And we can see that this is going to accelerate, because once they start releasing these reports about what these people have done, well, it's just going to build on that. And there's going to be even more coming out. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.